Hi there, friends. Welcome to another edition of Led's Lap Guides. If you aren't familiar with our lap guides on the Ledpencil channel, we do it a little bit differently. We attempt to dissect each turn, focusing on the racing lines that you need to be aiming for as you go around the tracks this week. Speaking of this week, for Race C, we have an oldie but a goodie, Deep Forest Reverse in Group 3 cars. For Race B, we have a combo that I honestly have been waiting on for a little while, and that's Group 4 cars, all of them this time, at Bathurst, Mount Panorama. As always, as part of our lap guides, to help you give you that little extra edge, we'll be using our overhead view Apex visualizer to help us better understand what these racing lines look like and help get you the best time you possibly can. Feel free to watch the whole video or look specifically at a turn or two that you know you need to improve on. This is your resource this week to use however you need. Now, let's take a look at how we broke it all down. Setup for this hairpin starts right here, okay? So, you want to be as far to the right as possible. So really, get your car over to the right, because that's going to set yourself up for the best entrance possible over to the left, okay? So, make sure that you get the car over here. And as you get to this location right here, just past the opening on the wall back there, this is your turn-in point right here. You can also think of it as when the shoulder goes away on the right side here. Okay, you're trying to clobber this this apex right here. Now, this is what makes this hairpin really tough, is that you're coming in with phenomenal amounts of speed. And your big braking zone includes a slight left-hand turn. So, what I think many cars are doing are they want to be as tight to the left as possible, and not only that, lift right here. So give yourself, in order to stay as much to the left as possible, go ahead and give yourself a little lift at this apex. It's going to do a lot to set you up for the actual hairpin itself. Braking right before the 100 board, some might be able to brake a little bit beyond, just at the 100 board. I think I'm more in this range right here. Different for different players, and perhaps how much you've lifted at that apex before. But you're trying to keep it as close to the curb as possible. You're braking in a straight line, and now you're setting yourself up for this hairpin. All right, this hairpin is just a make or break turn. It's so difficult to do. We're going to take a look at our Apex visualizer to give us a little bit of help here. It's not quite a 180 degree turn. It's tight, but it's probably just about like that. Okay, so more or less, this is your objective here. You're coming in, you're braking it really, really hot, okay? And then you're trying to get this wide entrance so that you can get the car pointed, so you can be on the throttle right in the apex here. Now, I do believe that if you end up going a little bit deep, that's okay. This, if you end up just a little bit braking a little bit too far down, and you end up a little deeper, like in this region right here, that seems to still be all right. You're not going to lose a whole lot of time. What is going to lose you a lot of time is if you end up way out here, and now you have to wait and wait and wait for the car to turn. There seems to be less grip out here because of the marbles. It really kills you. So make sure you stay as tight as you can. And that means you're going really slow. I mean, you are not going fast through this section at all. So take the time to get the car to turn, so that you can point that and get that exit, so that you're coming way out there, and get that done. Okay, on the real track right here. So an added benefit to the real track is that there is a little bit of a dip. So what that line looks like here is like this. You're turning in first. A lot of cars will exit in second gear. Right about here, there's a little dip, and you use that compression to give yourself a little extra grip when you start getting on the throttle. I really do want you to be on the throttle, at least somewhat, not fully, but somewhat, right at this spot here, okay? Open up the steering, don't go too tight. really expect to be as wide as this right here, okay? Because if you end up oversteering on exit, you're gonna increase the likelihood of actually spinning the tires out and end up oversteering off to the right, and you don't want to be one of those folks. The benefit of this turn right here is when you're trail braking and you're putting the car right at the edge, right at the limit, you can really get the car turned, so you can really get on the throttle early, and it's magnificent when you get it right. So we're braking right here, right before the curbing starts, okay? And we're braking in a straight line all the way through here. Okay, and let's stop right there and bring up the visualizer once again. So we have a turn that's just beyond 90 degrees. And it's a little bit more open. What you're trying to do is get the business of the turn done before the apex, okay? Really critical here. So you see how the exit is much straighter than your turn in and how you get the car towards the apex. Remember, we're trying to get to the apex as fast as possible. The way we do that is how we brake. So we're braking in a straight line until we get to the turn in spot. Then we're starting to trail off the brakes, and we're trying to get that back end of the car rotated around so that we can be on the throttle, honestly, right before the apex. That's really what we're trying to do here. If we're not able to get on the throttle until after the apex, that means that our entrance is too shallow, and it's compromising what we're trying to do on this turn. So in the actual track here, our turn-in point is as the curb ends, right here, okay? We're in second. Many cars will want first gear for added rotation and exiting in second gear. That is what the RS01 does. So my objective then is to be on the throttle right at this point. Maybe not fully, but getting on the throttle and going from there, if that makes sense. So we're at the middle sector now, and the middle sector of this track is all about where you are sacrificing speed to gain better exit speed, okay? That's what I want you to think. We're getting a nice wide turn in. Honestly, you're turning in after the curbing, right about here. You can kind of see some of the tire marks that give you this line, and you end up over here. You're trying to blast through here. Now, in order to make this turn, look at the actual track here for a moment. So this little part right here, you can't actually go full throttle here and make it the rest of the way. So you actually have to lift right up almost where we are right now. Now, I have noticed that a lot of people are able to lift at the apex and make it. Me personally, I don't seem to be able to do that. I seem to be able more to lift at this location right around here, get the car to turn, and then be at full throttle the rest of the way. But whatever you're doing, make sure you're not lifting after this apex that I just passed. That means that you've taken it and you're losing way too much exit speed. You're clobbering this apex, okay? Just like that. And once again, it may require a little lift, but what you're really aiming to do, okay, because this is going to set up your next turn, you're aiming to be as close to this wall as possible without putting your left tires over the white line, because that will actually get you a penalty, which stinks. You don't want those. All right, so we have a turn coming up that is nearly 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and bring up the visualizer again. So it's nearly 180, and we're gonna treat it a little bit like this right here, okay? So we're treating it as a hybrid double apex, essentially. Go ahead and get close to this first apex. Go ahead and let the car roll out just a little bit. Be at your slowest in this vicinity here, okay? Maybe more around here. Get the car to turn so that you clip the next apex and you can come out full throttle, no lifting in this arena here, okay? If that makes sense. And then, so the actual track, the way that looks, once again, you're turning and you're braking, so full braking is probably not possible, but you need to be braking right about here Any later than that, and you're going to probably end up too deep if you've carried a lot of good speed through there, okay? So, third, second. So, first gear, get this car to rotate. You can, you know, go ahead and be as wide as this, but this is our halfway point right here, okay? So, our car then at this point needs to be pointed like this, all right? Really critical to make that happen. Most likely in many cars, exit in second gear. Soon as you get to the middle of the tunnel, right about here, just beyond middle, I'll say. Really, for me, it feels like I'm braking as soon as I get the car straight, basically, coming out of that previous turn. All right, look at the rest of this sequence here. We have a left to a right, then to a more open left, and then a right. So we have the tightest turn right here with a slightly more open turn after that, and then the turns continue to open. What we want, okay, really critical, this is our objective through this sequence. We want to be flat through the final two turns, okay? That's what we want to accomplish, be flat through the final two turns of this sequence. How do we do that? We say tight to the left. So even if you need a little first gear, make sure you're tight, okay? Don't end up over to the right. Don't end up a car width to the right. That's too far. You've already compromised the rest of your exit through this sector, okay? So all the way here up to second for acceleration. Still accelerating. Accelerate, accelerate, accelerate. Right here, okay? And you can clobber this exit a little bit more. Some of the cars are not going to handle those bumps on the right very well. So manage that as your car allows you. I want you to lift right at this apex. Not a lot. I mean, when I was going through it, the last few laps, I mean, I'm just barely off, you know, maybe down to 75, 60% throttle and then back on it, because that seems to be enough to rotate the car. What we need to happen here is not go too far to the left. So your line then looks like this. You're full throttle here. I'm just going to stop here for effect so that you turn right here. You're still full throttle. If you have to lift just a little bit, that's okay. That's just a slight correction. But you really, really, really want to be full throttle through this here. And it can be done. It can be done. Just like that. Go ahead and clobber this apex. We are braking right here at the orange part of the wall here. We're braking in a straight line. You see, once again, we have almost very close to a 180-degree turn. So let's bring up the visualizer for this one. We'll get good help here for this. Okay. What we're looking at here is basically like that, and that's not our line yet. We want it to be quite a bit like that. That's essentially what we're accomplishing here. So it's definitely not a double apex. We're definitely coming in quite wide, and we're looking to tighten. If you end up a little tight here, some cars will tighten up, especially some of the MR cars will tighten up right here pretty well. But the key is that once you get to this region here, this is when you're on the throttle. So you're trail braking, you're braking. Really, here's the probably the biggest factor I could talk about on this one here. Make sure that you are able to transfer from brakes to throttle. No wasted coasting for this turn. Some turns require some coasting. This isn't one of them. You want brake to throttle, a very clean transition. And honestly, if you've got it turned quick enough, it could be close to full throttle right away. The actual track. Okay, so braking right there, fully maximum brake. You see how the tire marks start to turn in. That's basically what you're doing. You're not, if you're turning in at the end of the curbing for this one, that's too late. You're going to lose tenths because of that. So here's essentially your line, getting the car turned. Look, I don't have necessarily an acceleration marker, but I do know this. Once you get to this, I guess this is like some concrete There's a concrete section here of the turn. Once I get just into the concrete, I know that I need to be on the throttle by then. If you're on the throttle by then, by like this point right here, if you're starting to get on the throttle and you cannot make the corner, that means your entrance is too narrow, or you haven't shaved off enough speed by this point. So that's how I would look at that. 90-degree turn, but we want to consider this a late apex turn. That's the direction we're headed. So, like I was saying, we don't want it for a 90. It's very easy to consider the apex to be at the center of the corner of the inside, but really the apex is later, like right around in this vicinity, so that we can get on the throttle in this spot right here and still make the corner. Now, this is an all-wheel drive car, and likely if you're doing this race this week, you're probably in an all-wheel drive car. So there really is not a whole lot of gradually getting up to speed for this Group 4 all-wheel drive. Maximum throttle right away. That's what you're going for. What that looks like on the actual track is braking at the 75, banging down to second. And I do believe, so you're coming around just like that. I do believe if you've carried enough speed through this corner, you can exit in third. If you come through a little slower, then I think second is probably what you want to exit in. Our braking marker is really the end of this escape road. And let's consider from the Apex visualizer what this corner looks like. So this corner is just beyond 90 degrees. And it's got a nice, pretty long radius. And this is a good representation of what we're trying to do. So we're not trying to get to the apex too soon, but we're also not really trying to go too wide either. So get that braking point just right, get that turn-in point just right, so you can tighten to the apex and be close to the inside curbing for the majority of the time. But you really want to get on the throttle again in this vicinity, right in the center of the turn. And you have plenty of, you don't have to worry about any, if you're in an all-wheel drive car, you don't have to worry about any power oversteer. Slam that throttle, test the limits, and see how far it can go. Okay, that's really my advice for this corner. What that looks like in the actual track. Turning just before you get to the marshals, turn in nice and steep. So you can see this happens pretty quick. At this point right here, in the King G sign on the right, you should be at your quickest. Sorry, you should be on your throttle at that point. And don't be afraid to end up going all the way wide and even onto that curbing. All right, now we're on the uphill proper. No braking here, but if you don't feel comfortable enough, go ahead and lift a little bit so that you can clip this inside. Obviously, you don't want to hit the wall, but this is so that you can be straight on braking at this part. So this turn, it's heavily banked, and it's not quite 180 degrees. That would look like on our visualizer here. We're gonna pretend the car is quite large because of the banking. Okay, because of how banked it is at the center of the turn. Yeah, it's head face the right way. Because of how banked it is in the middle or in the inside of this turn, that's where you want to be. You don't want to hang out here, because that is flat and you're not gaining any advantage being out there or a wide entrance. Really, you need to brake in that straight line and then yank the car into the corner. And honestly, it's hard, because if you underestimate what the car can do, you'll end up crashing into that inside wall, which is a real pain. But this is the idea, and so that you're on the throttle right in this vicinity, and it's still banked, so just yank it through there, and you should be able to make the corner without hitting that outer wall over here. What that looks like on the actual track. So braking in a straight line, pointing towards there, down to second, and then you yank it in. You see that? If you get this tight, which is really where you want to be, by this point you can be on the throttle, or maybe even a little bit earlier, and make the corner. Okay, this is a flat out section, unless you have poor turn-in spots. So make sure that you're turned in nice and tight for this one. Turn in after the tree on the left. Maybe as the tree on the right leaves your screen, actually. Again, full throttle, no lifting here. Make sure you get nice and tight. The car makes it all the way over to the left here. Okay. This part real here, it's interesting. It's partly because of the dip at the next after this little rise here. But you actually don't want to be too tight to the apex on this part right here. You actually want to be a little wide. I would say shoot for the middle of the track, because you actually need to be as close to the wall here as possible. You see this dip, the bottom, that's the compression point. That's when all the weight of the car is going to come down on the tires. By lifting and turning right here, you get the biggest advantage possible. It's just a quick lift, not a lot, but you get so much turn because of doing that right at that spot. Go ahead and clip. Don't overdo that. You should be able to make it full throttle here, but if you have to lift a little bit to make this, that's fine. I'm still fiddling with whether I need to be in 5th gear or not in this spot. I think you can ride out 4th, and that's probably okay. You're lifting just before you get to that curbing, and then you're yanking the car all the way here so that you make the corner. The car can handle a lot. It can handle a lot of speed through this spot, so don't try not to underestimate it. Get back over to the right. Get as wide as you can. This is why. So this section is probably the part where people lose the car so much. And it's all this downhill. It's a right, left, right, and then the dipper, right? So here's how you handle this sequence right here. You're over all the way to the left like this so that you can point over the hill. And once you get through this sign, you're braking in a straight line, okay? Brake in a straight line. Lift, probably gear down to 3rd. Turn it, brake in a straight line over this curbing here. 2nd, brake in a straight line to this part and keep it tight to the right. Gotta keep it tight to the right, because if you go too wide, now you're gonna have to wait really long time to get through the dipper. If you've carried enough speed and you have it all the way to the right, give it a little gas to get to this point right here, up to 3rd. Go ahead and be on the throttle at this part. The key is transfer the weight to the right tires at this point. So you're turning left before you get to the dip of the dipper, right? Okay, and then down you go. Compression, you'll be able to ride lots of speed. The all-wheel drive will pull you over there. So as soon as the car straightens to this part right here, as soon as the wall straightens, that's when I'm starting to brake. But it's not 100% braking, okay? I gear down, and your objective is to keep it tight to the right. So I'm in 4th, I gear down to 3rd, and I keep it tight to the right. That's so we can make sure that we're getting the proper turn-in point for Forest Elbow. So by this point right here, you coasted or you gave a little gas. Once the wall turns blue on the right, now you're max braking and you're pointing straight, okay? We really want to keep it, that's a little more than that. We want a wide entrance, but not too wide. It's a nice balance to achieve. So you probably want to go, yeah, it is a bit more like that, isn't it? So we're braking in a straight line, and then we're trail braking off. The thing is with Forest Elbow, you have to be on the gas before you see your exit. So it's sketch. It's sketch beyond all belief, but that really is. So you got to be on the gas, honestly, in this vicinity here, and the wall is there, so you cannot see really where you're exiting. But that's how Forest Elbow works. Let's see what it looks like on the real track here. So 3rd, 2nd, let the car turn in up to third gear, you're on the gas now. Okay? That's really what, before on the left there, when where the wall doubles in height, before you get to that. That's really what you're trying to do. And that only works is if you have that wider entrance, because if you don't, you have a narrow entrance, you're going to hit the Falcon wall. Braking point for the chase. After the 150 board, I'm using the G and the N on sign even to be my braking marker. You know, if you're in race and you have a lot of overspeed because of slipstream, probably back that up some, but at least while you're by yourself practicing, use the G and the N just about. Go down in gears, under braking in a straight line. Be wide, but careful, because if you're just a little bit too far to the right, you end up in the grass, and then grass has very little traction, honestly. So, we're turning just a little bit late, okay? We're using second gear for rotation, and we're trying to take this sequence just like this. And we're on throttle no later than now, and we're doing it in third gear. You carry enough speed through here, third gear will rocket you out of here, no problem. I know that in the few laps that I was able to do here, I underestimated this car violently. I was not doing it service. Once again, another 90-degree turn, braking at the imaginary 75 board, right in the middle, right in between. And then what that looks like on our map. So this one I think is just a tad bit tighter than turn 1. So what we're going to do is just, I feel like second gear out of this turn is a little bit better in the Genesis. But this is how we're doing it. We're still getting the business of the turn done early, right? Getting it done before the apex so that we can have a straighter exit. Remember, we don't want to be pulling the wheel violently after an apex just to make the corner. That means our entrance is too shallow. We're cutting it like this, right? Now we want to get the business of the turn done before the apex so we can be on the throttle, probably with this turn right at the apex, and then make the corner. What that looks like on the actual track, going like that, braking in a straight line. We're turning as the grass moves over to the right. Just like that. Coming through here on the gas right at the apex. Don't want to hit that curb. It bounces this Genesis like a trampoline. Yes, it does. And that's going to do it for this week's guides. If this has helped you in some way, please leave the video a like. And if you aren't a subscriber yet, please become one. That way you can stay up to date on all the live streams, shorts, and videos that we put out on a regular basis. We'll see you soon, friends.